Taryn de la Rovissi, Lali's gun mage, mercenary character solo. The dance of battle always keeps the same impatient rhythm. What begins cacophonous ends in perfect silence. Lali's mercenary saying. The fall of their nation inspired many Laolis to patriotic vengeance. Taryn de la Rovissi, on the other hand, thinks her former country got precisely what it deserved. Taryn became aware of her pistol-linked sorceress abilities at a young age, while her peers in the Ladre orphanage spent their time talking about boys or gossiping. Taryn was busy sneaking off to watch the pistoliers practice their dueling skills. The solemn little girl soon became a regular sight at the practice yard, and it wasn't long before a pistolier named Henri waved her over to join them. She accepted the invitation to try to shoot and turn towards a row of bottles that they used as targets. As she placed her finger on the trigger, a soft blue glow enveloped the pistol. Taryn fired and hit the neck of the farthest target bottle, eliciting gapes and cheers from the gathered gunmen. Henri recognized the girl for a gun mage and promised to teach her all that he could. Her arcane talents and marksmanship developed quickly, and eventually Taryn began working as a bodyguard and proxy duelist. Enamored with the luxurious life of the aristocracy, she became romantically involved with a string of petty nobles. None of the shallow characters held her attention for very long. Henri, a veteran of Lael's armies, was used to putting up with haughty nobility as an unpleasant part of earning a living in peacetime. Even so, when a young duke suggested salaciously that Henri's intentions towards Taryn were not entirely noble, the riled Henri demanded satisfaction. Taryn watched in horror as her tutor, who was like a father to her, was gunned down right in front of her. She demanded vengeance, but the scornful duke dismissed her as not worth his time and roughly ejected her from his estate. Taryn spent a half a year plotting her elaborate revenge, but the invasion initiated by the Cadoran High Command made her schemes unnecessary. Fleeing the bombardment of the city, she turned around a corner to only find herself face to face with her hated enemy. The Duke barely registered her before she shoved a pistol barrel against his heart and pulled the trigger. In the chaos of the invasion, one more body would be scarcely noticed. Motivated more by the need to make a living than any real patriotism, she made her way to the Lali's army's disorganized headquarters. Taryn soon realized that Lael's military was a hopeless wreck, riddled with ineffective officers descended from the aristocracy. She was not interested in dying for a country that had crippled itself. Taryn spent some time wandering occupied Lael. Though she never again re-enlisted, she did take the occasional contract with the countless mercenary companies that had sprung up in the wake of the invasion. It was while scouting for one of these groups that she met Rutger Shaw in a ruined section of Ladrin. She was impressed by the calm with which he met the pistol pointed at him, and even more so by his readiness to deal with the Winterguard patrol that tried to arrest them both seconds later. Taryn was surprised to discover a burgeoning affection for him, even as bad luck seemed to draw them into one dangerous situation after another. On the road south of Lael, Taryn grew ever fonder of Shaw's demeanor and disdain for the wars of the Iron Kingdoms. She has developed a respect and an attraction for him that no Lali's noble had been able to inspire in her before. Rutger Shaw, professional adventurer, mercenary character solo. Rutger always said that anything worth fighting for is worth fighting dirty for. Taryn de la Rovissi. If there is a man to represent each age, Rutger Shaw is a candidate for the current times. Shaw has walked the length and breadth of the Iron Kingdoms, guided by his taste for adventure and coin. Shaw might have been just another grubby merc if it wasn't for his conscience. Even so, his best intentions are tempered by the fatalism of a man who has witnessed the hardships of the world. As an idealistic young man, Shaw enlisted to do his duty for crown and country. During his initial training amongst the Long Gunners, Shaw's instructors noted his incredible resilience and, more importantly, his do-or-die attitude. Quickly selected for rigorous trencher training, Shaw adapted easily to life among the 36th Trencher Company of the 1st Army. When his unit had completed their training and joined the regiments in Feling, he was as prepared as any to fight and die for his nation. By the end of the tour, however, Shaw had changed. Years of filthy trenches, brutal skirmishes, and cheapened life had soured his once positive perspective. He had come to see his country not as a home that he must vehemently protect, but as simply an employer. Offered the chance to renew his service again as a sergeant, Shaw declined. His conscience would not allow him to lead men for a cause that he no longer believed in himself. Shaw knew he couldn't return to the quiet life in the Midlands, so he invested his small fortune in arms and set off for nowhere in particular. In the years that followed, Shaw fell in with bandits, adventurers, and mercenary companies. He might have become a rich man years ago if it weren't for his nagging generosity. Shaw has on more than one occasion handed over the bulk of his gains to a disabled veteran or some unfortunate beggar. Cursing even as he does it, Shaw knows there's always more coin to be earned by a man with his taste for adventure. Shortly after the fall of Lael, a refugee member of the Order of the Golden Crucible hired Shaw to retrieve some documents and formulae from Khador-occupied Lirin. Inside that ruined building, he encountered a hooded woman who calmly leveled a glowing pistol at his head. Before either could speak, Winterguard troops broke in through the doors and interrupted their interlude. It was not long afterwards, as the two fled from the Khadoran army, that the gun mage simply asked, "How much are these papers worth anyway?" Shaw was impressed. He had met many mercenaries before, but none who fought with such casual grace or singular purpose as her. They grew more comfortable with each other as they traveled to Signar, but perhaps a strong sense of mutual respect prevented Shaw from making his usual carefree advances. By the time they reached his employer, they had already become fast friends. Taryn de la Rovissi shares Shaw's lack of interest in the affairs of nations, and though they prefer to find adventure on their own, bad timing and poor luck have increasingly conspired to keep this deadly tandem together. Having settled into the routine of friendship, Shaw feels that he has lost his opportunity to share his real feelings with Taryn. He instead tries to impress her with increasingly dangerous stunts that come closer and closer to imperiling both himself and the woman he loves.